Hi, I'm Rose, and today with me is Pete Evans, celebrity chef and author of the Complete Gut Health Cookbook. Welcome, Pete.
Thanks, Rose. Thanks for having me.
This is an amazing book. It's an amazing resource. I went through, there are recipes, there's a wealth of knowledge, and you even get into some essential oils in there. I believe you co-wrote the book with
Helen Patteran.
Helen Patteran.
So Helen's a well-known naturopath and expert on gut health in Australia and in New Zealand. She's practiced in both of those countries, and a very dear friend of mine. And we had the idea to put this book together, the chef and the naturopath, basically, or the chef and the doctor.
Perfect marriage.
I think it is. I really do. And Helen's got a wealth of knowledge about how our digestive system works, what irritates our guts, what to remove from the classic food groups to help our guts actually thrive. And I love making recipes using the information from people like Helen and other medical doctors and scientists and researchers from around the world, and put it into really easy applications so that anyone that is watching this at home that has a young family or an older family or is living by themselves or just want to have better health for themselves and their family, there's some really simple solutions for this.
Right. As I look through the book, I mean, it's very accessible. So any ordinary person like myself or anybody else in our audience or readers would just pick this up and not be intimidated by the recipes or the information in here. But this was your journey. Tell us about how you got into this. You had some gut issues, right?
Yeah, I've always been interested in health and nutrition, and I think I've tried everything out there. I've tried the standard dietary guidelines, which are very similar in the United States as they are in Australia. Lots of carbs or lots of grains and low fat, which I think is a disaster. Science tells us it's a disaster. I've tried vegetarian and veganism, which didn't work for my body anyway. And it wasn't until I discovered a paleo approach, which is basically, in a nutshell, it's about eating small to moderate amounts of well-sourced seafood or meat, nose to tail if you can. So you're eating everything if you can. So a small amount of that on the plate with an abundance of low-carb vegetables. So if you think about low-carb vegetables, they're the vegetables that grow above the ground. Okay, so the vegetables that grow below the ground store their sugars and their starches, which is why they're higher carbohydrate ones. So if you can fill your plate...
Like carrots and
potatoes and sweet potatoes. Right. So if you can fill your plate with the majority being above the ground, with just a few little bits and pieces from below the ground, so to speak, in a smaller ratio, and then include good quality fats. So small amounts of meat, lots of vegetables, different colours, good quality fats that either come from the animals
olive oil
or coconuts, olives, avocados, even eggs. And then, so we've got those three pillars there. And then we add to that some fermented foods or beverages such as sauerkraut or kimchi that we make ourselves or get from a health food store. And some bone broth, which is really simple. It's the boiling of bones, animal bones, in water. And we've done this as a species all around the world, which is why we have beautiful soups from all parts of the globe. That's why there's books like Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Right, and this bone broth is like another hot trend that's becoming more accessible too. A lot of people are making the bone broth and selling it.
It is. I mean, but it's so cheap to make at home too. It really is. Like, if you wanted to make it for yourself and for your family, it'll cost you about 20 or 30 cents per day. To give yourself half a cup of it, which is probably all that you need on an ongoing basis. It's absolutely beautiful. And then we take away the most common inflammatory foods, and the most common ones, from a naturopathic point of view and from a scientific point of view, that's affecting us these days are our starchy carbohydrates, but especially the grains, the legumes, and also the dairy. So once we remove those threes, we're left with basically an anti-inflammatory diet, which is how we heal our guts.
Okay, so now I know I have a gluten sensitivity.
Yes.
So, and there are certain grains.
Can I just tell you something? I think every person on the planet has a gluten sensitivity.
They do, right?
If you look at the work from the gastroenterologist, a very famous fellow called Alessio Fasano, he's from Boston here. He's discovered zonulin, which is He's done a lot of work on our gut and what happens with gluten when we digest it. And there's not one person on the planet, a human being, that can digest gluten completely. So
Really?
it's basically an irritant for our guts, for everyone. Now, some people are more sensitive than others. Right? Some people can eat it and not really feel the effects of it, but that doesn't mean it's good for you. So you obviously show signs and feel discomfort if you eat it.
But certain grains, are these grains, my question is, are these grains good for you or not necessarily good for you? Like barley and farro, I cannot eat those two grains.
I wouldn't recommend any grains for any person looking for great health.
Grains. Okay.
Especially great gut health.
All the grains and legumes, you're saying, should be eliminated pretty much.
First, eliminate it, and if you can't, then drastically reduce them and prepare them properly. So if you are going to be eating grains, which I don't recommend, or legumes, which also I don't recommend, you have to prepare them properly. They have to be organic. You should ferment them or at least sprout the certain ones so they're more easily digestible. But again, I don't recommend it. I would stick with the simple philosophy of a small amount of seafood or meat that's been well sourced, that has had a natural diet, and an abundance of colourful vegetables and good quality fats, and then the fermented vegetables and the broth. Because the broth, basically what it does is it seals your guts, and it gives you gelatin, collagen, glucosamine, magnesium, calcium, all the building blocks that our bodies love and thrive.
I drink this bone broth every day.
Well, it's funny because people buy capsules or they have it in their beauty products, or where you can just drink it and it'll be that much better for anti-aging, for your wrinkles, for the whole thing, for your joints.
So would you drink this in the morning, just a half a cup?
Half a cup, that's what I always say, replace your coffee with a brothy.
I like that, replace your coffee with a brothy. I am doing it, promise.
And the fermented vegetables actually add, once you've got the broth that seals your gut, the fermented vegetables, they're basically the superfood of probiotics. A lot of people take probiotic capsules, which basically don't do anything. But if you actually have it in a whole food form, like the broth, so if you're eating your sauerkraut or your kimchi or other fermented types of foods, it could be 10 to 100 times more powerful than a probiotic capsule, and it actually works. So it's colonising your guts with good bacteria. So we're outnumbered from human DNA to bacteria 10 to 1. Wow. So we're more bacteria than we are human DNA.
Ooh,
so we need to look after our bacteria. We have trillions of bacteria cells in us and on us. So it's very vital. I mean, I dedicated this book to the bacteria that reside on us and in us, saying we need to look after this. And we need to look after the bacteria in the soil. We need to look after it in our ecosystem, in our oceans. And it's all connected.
Yeah, and we're becoming a more conscious universe. That's what I feel. But now, what if you're the type of person that can't eat sauerkraut or kimchi? Is there an alternative?
Sure. Well, if you have histamine issues, which is a very small percentage of the population, then you may need to avoid this for a while until your gut is healed. So to heal your gut again, go back to that anti-inflammatory diet.
Okay.
If you have autoimmune issues, which we talk about in our book as well, you may want to look at eliminating as well eggs, because they can be very inflammatory for some people with autoimmune issues. Nuts and seeds, which are considered quite healthy, but can also be very inflammatory. And also, nightshade vegetables are one of the most common inflammatory food groups. So when you think about nightshades, you're thinking about chilies, tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants, goji berries even, which are considered quite trendy over the last 5 years, but they can actually be doing quite a lot of damage to our guts.
So how do we find out? Do we test certain foods for a period of time?
Yeah, the elimination.
And see how.
So the way to find out what foods you can tolerate or should be eating is you can do an elimination diet, which is what we talked about before. Just go back to basics and have seafood and meat and vegetables and good quality fats as sort of the default. But if you want to get proper testing done, then functional medical doctors and or naturopaths that are up to date with current testing, they will test your urine, your stools, your bloods as well, and come back and help guide you on this journey. Because there could be also other foods that are considered normal that you might be having a sensitivity to. You know, for some people it could be onion, or it could be leek, or it could be garlic. So it's hard to make a blanket statement.
Sure.
But generally for 90% of people, that if you take out the grains, the legumes and the dairy, that will just do wonders. And if you include a half a cup or cup of broth per day and a little bit of fermented vegetables, then your health will go from here to here.
Okay. Now, would you say, are there any particular foods to stay away from that could harm you? Or is it generally what your body reacts to?
Well, again, I don't recommend people to be eating grains from any type. And dairy is...
I have to change my whole diet now. I mean, well, I was led to believe that grains are good. And there are certain grains that I eat, and of course certain ones that I stay away from. But I'm understanding a whole different way of life here. And
well, there's a couple of different things at play here.
I'm jumping on board.
There's a couple of different things at play here. What are the foods that really irritate our gut? Because it's not what we eat. The old saying is we are what we eat, but it's actually what we absorb. So we need our gut functioning in a proper way because we want to absorb all the nutrients that we put into it. Okay. Now, the other side of that as well is that in current Western society, we're playing havoc with our insulin. So each and every day, if you eat according to the American or Australian healthy eating guidelines, they've got carbohydrates basically that say...
We'll stay away from that, yeah.
You know, it's 60
that pyramid.
People are eating 60 to 70% of their caloric intake as starchy carbohydrates. Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to work out that each and every time you're eating high sugary foods, which is your grains, you know, your breads, your cereals, these jack up your blood sugar so high. Now, people are eating that for breakfast. Then mid-morning comes around, they're hungry. They're reaching for whatever it might be, a muesli bar or the cookie or the muffin. Lunchtime comes around. Western society, we're eating sandwich or a roll or sushi or something like that or a wrap. Mid-afternoon comes, we're slumped down because each and every time we eat like that, we jack ourselves up. It's like a drug. We get high and then we crash. Now, you keep doing that over and over, you're going to mess with your insulin. You're going to probably become eventually pre-diabetic or fatty liver disease or whatever it may be. Now, there's a simple solution to that. You cut out the high starchy carbohydrates, which is the grains and the legumes, and the starchy vegetables, such as potatoes, and you go back to eating meat, low carbohydrate vegetables, and good quality fat. Now, the fat is the key here, because the fat is what satiates you. So, for instance, I usually eat one meal a day, maybe two, without snacks. And I've been doing that for the last 5 or 6 years. And I don't get hungry. My blood sugar levels don't rise up and down. They're constant. I can go a day without eating, without even thinking about it. You lose that we're a slave to hunger.
Addiction.
The addiction.
Yeah, the addiction.
And then you spend less on food. You can actually buy better quality food because you've got that money now that you used to spend on the junk or the things to keep you hungry. You can actually spend on that grass-fed or the organic. So and by doing that, you're supporting the ecosystem. You're supporting the farmers that are raising their livestock or they're growing their vegetables or fruits in a holistic way. So everyone benefits when you start to eat this way.
But now, do you have enough energy to exercise and
that's
go on? So you have even more.
That's the common myth, is that you need the sugar or the starches to have energy. So whereas we're actually designed to run better on fat as our primary fuel source. So there's a wonderful book written by a friend of mine called Primal Body, Primal Mind. Her name is Nora Gagaudis. She's actually got a new book called Fat Burner, I think it's called. Check it out because it talks about the science. I actually interviewed a professor at SUNY Medical Institute here in Brooklyn last week. And he's in his 60s and he's a huge proponent of the low carbohydrate, healthy fat movement. And he says the medical system and the dietary guidelines are so wrong. He goes, it's all based on lies. And this is what he teaches his medical students now.
I guess that's the research, that's what they were able to do back then.
You can reverse type 2 diabetes by eating this way.
I totally agree. Now, are there certain foods that can heal more than others?
That's a good question. The broth, as we discussed, is fantastic. You know, it is fantastic. I won't call it a superfood. I don't actually like using that word, but actually, if there was a superfood, it would be, and a lot of people aren't going to like what I'm about to say, but it's offal. It's the organ meats of animals. Every traditional society around the globe has always coveted or really the best part of the animal would be the liver or the marrow or the brain or the kidneys. Now, and that's still all around the world, not in a Western civilization pretty much.
Right, yeah.
Whereas for us now living in America or Canada or Australia, it becomes really difficult to find these foods, and we've sort of been conditioned to see them as yucky or icky or get a bit squirmish by it.
Yeah.
So if we can include a little bit of liver each week or maybe a little bit of bone marrow into our broths, then I think that would be my advice, is to start thinking about nose to tail and including these wonderful foods, because they really are vitamin and nutrient powerhouses. You've probably heard of vitamin K2 and vitamin A, and these things are an abundance, say, in grass-fed liver or chicken liver, for instance, and it's cheap and it's delicious.
Okay.
Speaking from a chef point of view.
Yes, I wish we had a cooking demonstration, but we don't have a kitchen in this location, but stay tuned for the future. Now let's talk a little bit about, the remedies that promote the gut healing. You're demonstrating today a few of them with us. Enliven Me bath salts, the tummy comfort, and essential oils used in naturopathy. What are the benefits of each?
For sure. We should just clarify that just eating food, good food, like we talk about, is great. It's a wonderful place to start because we have control of that as adults each and every single day. We get to choose what we put on the end of our fork or our spoon or in between our chopsticks or in our glass. That's a luxury, and it's something that we can choose each and every day. The only people that can't choose that is somebody that's either very old and being looked after or very sick, or our children. So we can change what we put into our mouths today at our very next meal. However, if you're stressed, if you're in a relationship or a job or whatever it may be that is causing you stress or unease, all the good food in the world mightn't give you the health that you're looking for while you've still got that disease or that emotional baggage or turmoil. Also, if you're not getting adequate sleep, then that can be a major disruptor for gut health. If you're overtraining, if you're spending 10 hours a week doing exercise at the gym and torturing yourself, that can also be a gut disruptor, a hormone disruptor. And if you're not drinking adequate clean water as well, I think that we need to cover all of that and really taking the time out for ourselves to relax. And that's what the bath salts are about. That's what the aroma smells are about, or aromatherapy is about. And we're also going to talk about a massage oil as well, which you can, we're going to show you a tummy healing one, but then you can get into a relationship, connecting one if you want to, be intimate with your partner. So there's all of these different aspects that expand on this holistic notion. I mean, I talk about food first and foremost because I'm a chef, but I don't want to discount these other, pillars of health.
Well, yeah, because we need to incorporate the emotional and the physical, right?
Correct.
To be overall healthy.
And the environmental toxins that we take in each and every day. I mean, a lot of people put beauty products on that have gluten in them. Not a lot of people know this, but if you have a gluten sensitivity, nearly all beauty products have some form of gluten in them. So always read the labels.
Right. Even toothpaste has gluten in it.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
In shampoo, it's in everything. So do your research. Once you start on this journey, you'll find that it's really quite simple to live a very holistic and simple life, which will generate great health for you and your family. And it's not too expensive. And in actual fact, it's more delicious eating this way than any other way. And
I'm sure, because like you said, you're satiated, so you feel good probably all the time.
Well, let me put it this.
Getting that vibe from you.
Well, let me put it this way to you: when you eat good food, we had a chat off camera before about living on a farm. You know, chickens lay their eggs, we've got bees that create honey, we've got a vegetable garden where you're plucking out.
We're all going to move to Australia and live with Pete on his farm and have all this great, delicious, fresh, healthy food.
But you don't need to live on a farm. But what I'm trying to say is that's all looks like delicious food. You know, you can pull it out of the ground, you can catch a fish, you cook it. Whereas if you're looking at the foods that we're actually sort of eliminating through this diet, they all require sort of quite long processes for us to be able to ingest them. So, for instance, if you go through a rice field or a wheat field, you know, I'm sure it doesn't look delicious to you. You
Right,
know?
yeah, definitely.
Whereas if you
I'm
walk
sure.
through a strawberry patch, you know, it looks delicious. If you down at the beach and you're near oysters, you know, you look at that and go, oh, if I just open that up, I've got the most delicious food in the world. Whereas when you're thinking about, say, pasta or rice, if I cooked it for you with nothing on it, you'd think I was a pretty crummy cook. It has no flavour. Well, it has no flavour. A bowl of pasta or a bowl of boiled rice, it has no flavour. The only or piece of bread with nothing on it, pretty boring food, pretty bland food. And this is what most of Western society is addicted to.
Yeah.
Bland, tasteless food that is causing our guts major harm. It's only the pasta that comes alive when you put on a sauce, or the bread that comes alive when you put on something on it or in between it, or the rice that comes alive when you mix it with a curry or a stir fry or whatever it may be. So I just want to throw that out there because a lot of people go, well, I love my pasta or I love my rice. And I go, well, what is it that you love about it? Because it can't be the taste.
Right.
So is it the texture?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the texture? Is that why you love it? Or are you addicted to it?
Right. I was just going to say, it's addiction. It's all about addiction.
It raises your blood
Right.
sugars.
Yeah, it's that roller coaster, that up and down.
And it creates comfort.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I hope I haven't spoken out of turn here or put
No.
too many people off their favourite foods, but there's better
Well,
ones
you
out
know
there.
what? Yeah, there are definitely better ones, and I'm sure that you make them taste amazing. Now, what do you hope people will take away from the book?
Hopefully just some delicious recipes. I mean, half of the book is broths and soups and slow cooked dishes. And
Yeah, I love
they're,
the slow cooked ones.
you know, you make a big pot of soup and you can eat it for days and you can freeze it down and then pull it out. So you've got food very, very easy to reheat for yourself as well. So I hope people get some beautiful recipes. I really hope they read the first third of the book, which is all Helen Patteran's information on how our system works and why the health of our nations are where they're at the moment, and that there's a simple solution for people to start reclaiming their health one meal at a time.
All right, Pete, so let's get on to our demonstration. I'm excited to learn about some of these essential oils and how to make them.
We're sort of cooking. Let's get into
Exactly.
it.
All right, so Pete, we just talked a little bit about some of these essential oils, and you're going to demonstrate with us today, or I will assist you in demonstrating today, some of the remedies that you have listed in the book. And the first one is Enliven Me bath salts.
This was one of my favourites. Actually, these three recipes as such have actually been created by my co-author, Helen Patteran, who's a naturopath.
Right, and she's also in the book.
She's fantastic. She's works in Australia and New Zealand, does Skype calls, and she's the go-to person for gut health in our country from a naturopathic point of view. And when we were creating the book, I asked her, I said, I'll look after the food recipes, but what else should we put in here? Because obviously there's more to it than just food. And she said, well, let's talk about essential oils, and also one of our favourite things to do for children and for ourselves for pleasure is to have a bath. Right. You know, and we all know that magnesium or Epsom salts is fantastic to put in the bath just to relax us. But you can actually turn that into a sort of a little flavour bomb, so to speak, without any of the toxic chemicals. You know, people put those bath salts in and they fizz up and then all of a sudden...
No, and they smell so bad. I'm an avid believer. I always throw some oils in my bath.
So if you'd like to help me with this, Rose,
yes,
we
just
have
tell me.
just some beautiful Epsom salts here, which is magnesium. You've got some rosemary there if you want to add
And we
some
have some
lemon peel. If you'd like to just mix them together into the salt. And
Okay.
I'm going to add a little bit of rosemary essential oil too.
Now my hands are going to smell lovely after this.
Aren't they?
Yes, they will. So that's good. I'll be peaceful and calm all day.
And we'll do about 6 or 8 drops of rosemary oil. You can pretty much use any type of essential oil that you like.
It smells so good.
And basically herb as well, but the rosemary and the lemon is very uplifting for the spirit or the soul.
Right.
So if you've had a tough day in the office or at work or at the gym or doing whatever it is that you do, and you want to relax,
It smells so good.
then I would suggest maybe some lavender. But if you want to, if you've got to go out for dinner that night or you need that little pick-me-up, then this is a wonderful, wonderful way to do it.
Oh, I love that. You know, I feel there's like this surge, this little rush of it's. I don't want to necessarily say it's energy. It's just an awakening.
That's
It's like,
right.
wow, like my senses and everything are like, wow, alert.
Now I should just clarify
Beautiful.
this, that the magnesium or the Epsom salts is wonderful because a lot of people don't realise this, but we actually absorb through our skin and also
Yes.
through our senses, through our sense of smell. And we get such beneficial, I guess, relief or benefits from this by doing it, not only by the food that we eat, but also the smells the aromas that we can smell, but also through absorption through the skin.
Right.
So a lot of people take magnesium tablets and capsules, which is fantastic because it's one thing that we're sort of lacking these days because it's not in our soils anymore. And so it's
Right.
not being retained by the vegetables and the fruits for us. So it's important to have a magnesium supplement. So instead of taking it internally, you can just sit in a beautiful bath. And
There you go.
I should say, if you can get a good quality house filter, which takes the chlorine out, because the chlorine is a bit of a gut disruptor for us.
Okay.
So filtered water in the bath, if you can. I mean, that's sort of the goal. Unless
Okay.
you've got some beautiful rainwater or tank water.
Well, I'm sure filters are they're easy. I know, at least in Manhattan.
So
I
that's
have
simple.
filters.
You
This
can
is really amazing. I smell it from here. It's not just on my hands. I feel alive, and I'm going to let this sit and absorb through my skin.
So the recommendation I would say is make up the beautiful enlivening bath salts and store it in a airtight container.
Okay, and then we
But then-
just keep it on the side of the tub there?
Side of the tub, and also make up a beautiful calming one with some chamomile, dried chamomile or some chamomile oil or some lavender and things like that. So really start experimenting with these wonderful herbs and spices and essential oils and bath salts that you could sort of change your mood, so to speak.
Okay, we could find those recipes in the book as well. And the next one we have here is the essential oils used for naturopathy.
Yeah, this one's actually to help with nausea. So if you're feeling a little bit sick or feeling not great, then this is a wonderful way to sort of self-medicate, so to speak. You know,
Is it something that we'll
we're going to
ingest?
we're actually going to smell and
Really?
inhale this lovely concoction. Or you could actually rub it onto your skin, but we'll talk about the different ways we could do this. So first off, we have 4 different essential oils
Okay,
here. We have some lemon.
Some lemon.
We have some ginger, as we know, is great for so many different applications and illnesses, but especially great for nausea. That's why when people go on a boat, for instance, and they want to stop being seasick, they take the ginger
And
tablets.
plains as well. We have the oils listed here as
We have
well.
some peppermint oil, which is my favourite, actually. I love
Drinking
this.
some peppermint tea. I'm a huge fan. of
So if you've got a cold or a flu or you're sinusy, a few drops of peppermint oil work wonders.
Okay.
And then we've also got one of my favourites, which is lemon balm. It's actually growing abundant in my garden back home at the moment. It's sort of taken over. And you can make the most beautiful teas with this if you wanted to take it internally. Maybe don't use the essential oils, but just use the raw ingredients. So ginger, lemon, lemon balm and peppermint make a beautiful tea. But if you do want to sort of, I guess, go to town on this, use these essential oils, mix them together.
Okay.
So we've
Spoon
got
here if
some-
you want. I just want to smell this one too.
Now you can use these.
Just like that. And it's just like what, about a tablespoon in there of each?
Yeah, there's not too much. There's a few drops of each in there. Now, to inhale it, you can simply smell it like this, but if you added this to some hot water and basically
Oh wow, that smells so good.
some boiling water and let that steam sort of
Oh, and sure,
cover
the
your head
vapor.
with a little towel and get the vapor, that's wonderful. Or you could add a little bit of a carrier oil like macadamia oil or avocado or coconut oil or extra virgin olive oil, extend this a little bit, and then rub it on to your tummy as well.
Really?
Right, onto your
Okay.
skin. And then that aroma will just sort of be with you for the rest of the day.
And our last one is tummy comfort.
And this is what we were talking about just before, is this is a topical application. So
Okay.
you can smell these oils, you can bathe in them, and the other one is you can rub it into your skin. Basically like a massage type oil, but this one is actually for massaging our tummies if we've got a little bit of an upset tummy or we're not feeling right down here. And it's really simple. So we have some chamomile, and we're also going to use a couple of drops of peppermint oil as well.
Okay.
We're going to double down here. So
And what is it? What is in here already?
that's some coconut oil.
Okay.
So we're going to use coconut oil. We're going to use a little bit of chamomile or chamomile. A few drops of peppermint oil, if you don't mind. There, Rose, if you want to drop
sure.
that in.
Thanks.
We've got some extra virgin olive oil.
I love this. We have little jars inside too. We're going to package this and give everybody some to take.
And then we can just stir that around and basically use that as a massage oil.
And you know, it's great for your skin too because it helps keep your skin nice and moist and smooth, right?
Yeah, smell that.
Oh, that's amazing.
So you can just rub that on your tummy. You don't have to lather yourself
Just
up.
a little bit. Now that's something I could probably put on my children, right?
For
like
sure.
On my son when he's complaining about an upset stomach.
Always with essential oils, always just test a little bit on the skin first to make sure there's no reactions to it.
Okay.
And you don't want to put it completely over your
And then
your
find
children.
out later, to rush them to the hospital. No, it wouldn't be a good thing.
So just a little touch on, just to
Okay.
test whether it's safe or not. Give it 10 minutes, see if there's any reaction, and then if there's not, then go gently. And it can be very, very soothing as well. And there's a method for it. You can do it on different parts of the abdomen. We've got all the information in the book there for you. But I mean, this was a different type of cooking for me today.
Right,
you know?
but still relevant, very relevant.
But if we look back at natural medicine, I mean, this is really where the pharmaceutical industry stemmed from, was the use of herbs and different types of plants and different types of tonics and lotions and potions. And it's evolved into something very different, but it's wonderful to see that with the naturopathic community and the holistic community, that these type of methods or treatments have a place with modern medicine as well. And I love that food can be medicine, but I do believe that we live in the best of worlds where we can combine holistic therapies with modern medicine.
Yeah.
And I think we're very, very lucky to be living at this
Very
time.
fortunate. And I mean, it's interesting to see how we are going, I don't want to say backwards in time, but we're going back to the roots of where we originated from and all that is natural, because science has found that this is what's really helpful, along with the food, and it's a beautiful marriage. And Pete, I want to thank you so much for being here with us today,
My
for
pleasure.
sharing your knowledge and sharing Helen's recipes with us. Again, the book is called The Gut Health Cookbook. Get it while it's hot.
Thank you. Cheers.